Have you ever had one of those days where you wake up, check your phone, scroll for a bit, and suddenly it feels like everyone else is 10 steps ahead of you? Someone's hitting the gym at 5 a.m., another person's launching a new business, someone else just posted about their dream vacation. And you're just sitting there thinking, I can't even get myself out of bed without hitting snooze 3 times. How am I ever supposed to catch up? It's in moments like that where confidence takes the hardest hit. Not because you're incapable, but because you start comparing your entire life to other people's highlight reels. Here's the truth no one really talks about: confidence isn't built in giant leaps. It's not about one massive achievement, or some overnight transformation, or finally finding the courage to reinvent your whole life. Confidence is built in whispers, in the smallest of victories that stack up quietly day after day until you wake up one morning and realize you're stronger, braver, and more capable than you ever gave yourself credit for. That's where the idea of a tiny triumph tracker comes in, not as some fancy app or complicated system, but as a mindset shift, a way of noticing and collecting the little wins you already have every single day. Because let's be honest, most of the time we only celebrate the big stuff: graduating, getting promoted, hitting a milestone. But those moments are rare. They're the peaks. And if you only allow yourself to feel proud when you reach a peak, you're going to spend most of your life feeling like you're not enough. The key is to learn how to recognize the small climbs, the daily steps, the things that seem ordinary but actually prove to you that you're moving forward. Think about it. Making your bed might not feel like an accomplishment. Drinking a full glass of water in the morning might not seem like something worth noting. Sending that email you've been avoiding for 3 days, finally getting through a 20-minute workout, or even just showing up to class or work when you really didn't feel like it, these might look like tiny actions, but together, they form the backbone of real confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you teach your brain, hey, I can rely on me. And that's where unshakable confidence is born, not from perfection, but from consistency. Let's start with the first habit that makes this work: noticing. Most of us move through the day on autopilot, so when we do something good for ourselves, we just brush past it. We'll beat ourselves up for the one thing we didn't do, but completely ignore the dozen small things we did right. The first step to building confidence is shifting your attention. Instead of asking, what did I fail at today? Ask, what small win did I create today? Maybe you spoke up in class when you usually would have stayed silent. Maybe you resisted the urge to buy something you don't need. Maybe you just survived a day that felt heavy. Those all count. Here's a practical way to do it. At the end of each day, take 60 seconds to write down 1 or 2 tiny triumphs. It doesn't matter if it's scribbled in a notebook, typed in your phone, or even just spoken out loud. The act of acknowledging it cements it in your mind. Over time, you'll have a growing list, a track record that proves to you, in black and white, that you are capable of more than you give yourself credit for. And when those inevitable low-confidence days hit, you'll have a list to look back on, almost like your personal highlight reel. Now let's talk about the second piece: lowering the bar, in the best way possible. So many people think confidence comes from doing huge, impressive things. But the irony is, setting massive goals that are almost impossible to reach often backfires. You try, you fall short, and then you feel worse. Lowering the bar doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means creating stepping stones so small, so achievable, that success is practically guaranteed. Want to get fitter? Don't start with a 1-hour workout 5 days a week. Start with 5 push-ups, or a 10-minute walk. Want to be more consistent with studying? Don't aim for 4 hours of perfect focus. Start with 15 minutes of review. The goal isn't to impress anyone else, it's to prove to yourself that you can start, that you can follow through, that you can trust yourself to take action. And here's where the magic happens: once you succeed at the small version, your brain starts to crave more. You go for a 10-minute walk today, and suddenly a 15-minute walk tomorrow doesn't feel so hard. You write 1 paragraph today, and tomorrow you feel like you can write a whole page. Small wins multiply. They grow. But they only start when you allow yourself to go tiny. That's why the tracker works. It shifts the spotlight onto the kind of progress you might otherwise ignore, and in doing so, it fuels the belief that you can keep going. There's a third layer here too, treating yourself as if those small wins actually matter. And this is where a lot of us trip up. We'll accomplish something small, then immediately dismiss it. Yeah, I did that, but it doesn't really count. Stop doing that to yourself. If it moves you even one step closer to the person you want to be, it counts. And if you train yourself to celebrate the small, you'll find that you naturally start to build the kind of inner momentum that no one can take away from you. Now that we've explored how noticing your wins and lowering the bar can transform the way you see yourself, it's time to dig deeper into how these small triumphs can ripple out, shaping not just your confidence but the way you carry yourself in every part of your life. When you start collecting those small wins, something interesting happens. You begin to change the way you talk to yourself. Most of us carry this inner critic, that voice in the back of our minds that says, "You're not doing enough. You're behind. You'll never get there." It's exhausting, right? But every time you notice and record a tiny triumph, you're training a different voice, the voice that says, "Look, I showed up. I did something. I kept my word." And the more evidence you give that voice, the louder and more believable it becomes. That shift in self-talk is what builds unshakable confidence over time. Confidence isn't about pretending you're fearless or acting like you have it all figured out. It's about stacking up enough proof that you can trust yourself, even when things feel shaky. Think about how you build trust with another person. It doesn't come from one big gesture, it comes from them showing up consistently, keeping their promises in small ways. That's exactly how it works with yourself. You're building a relationship with you. And the tiny triumph tracker is like the diary of that relationship. Now, here's the part that really makes this powerful. Those tiny wins don't just boost your mood in the moment. They ripple into other areas of your life. When you start to see yourself as someone who follows through, even on small things, you begin carrying that identity everywhere. If you've been telling yourself, "I'm lazy, I can't stick to anything," every little success proves that story wrong. And when you stop believing the old story, you unlock the courage to try bigger things, because you're no longer starting from a place of doubt. Imagine you've been struggling to stay consistent with studying. You decide to commit to just 10 minutes a day, and you actually do it. After a week, you don't just have 70 minutes of studying under your belt, you also have the identity of someone who studies daily. That identity spills over into how you walk into class, how you approach exams, even how you talk about yourself. The same is true for fitness, creativity, relationships, or anything else. The wins don't stay small, they compound into a whole new self-image. But let's be real for a second. Some days, even small wins feel impossible. You wake up drained, life throws curveballs, and the idea of tracking triumphs feels laughable. This is where the third piece comes in, redefining what counts as a win. It's easy to celebrate when you crush a workout or nail a presentation, but what about the days when just getting out of bed is hard? On those days, the triumph might simply be showing up. Taking a shower. Answering one email. Giving yourself credit for surviving a rough day is just as valid as celebrating a high achievement day. Because resilience is a triumph too. And here's the part people often forget. Confidence grows fastest when you learn to see yourself as capable even on your lowest days. Anyone can feel confident when they're winning big. The question is, can you see your strength in the small, messy, unglamorous efforts? That's what makes confidence unshakable. It's not tied to perfect circumstances, it's rooted in the belief that you can handle whatever comes your way, even if your best today looks different from your best yesterday. Another layer to this is sharing your wins, not in a bragging way, but in a way that builds connection. When you tell a friend, "Hey, I finally went for that 10-minute walk I've been avoiding," or "I finished that book I've been reading forever," you give them permission to celebrate their small wins too. Confidence grows in community. Think about how good it feels when someone else says, "I'm proud of you for something tiny you almost overlooked." It reinforces the idea that these little steps matter. And in a world where we're constantly bombarded with highlight reels, choosing to celebrate the small, real stuff is almost an act of rebellion. One practical way to bring this into your daily life is to set a minimum win for yourself. This is the smallest, easiest action you can take on a goal that still counts as a success. Maybe it's reading 2 pages of a book, writing 1 sentence for your project, or doing 1 push-up. The beauty of a minimum win is that it lowers the barrier to action so much that it's almost impossible not to succeed. And once you start, you often end up doing more anyway. But even if you don't, you still get the confidence boost of having followed through. Now think about how this practice feels after a week, a month, 6 months. You are no longer beating yourself up for what you didn't do. You are looking at a steady record of wins, big and small. And that record starts to change you. You stop approaching challenges with, "I don't know if I can do this," and start approaching them with, "I've kept showing up before, I can show up again." That shift is subtle, but it's life-changing. And here's the kicker: once you start stacking tiny triumphs, the size of the wins naturally grows. Not because you suddenly became a different person overnight, but because your belief in yourself expanded enough to take on more. It's like lifting weights. You don't walk into the gym and bench press 200 pounds on day 1. You start small, build strength, and over time, the weight that once seemed impossible becomes doable. Confidence works the same way. Tiny wins are the reps that build your mental and emotional strength. As you keep practicing this, something clicks. You realize you're not waiting for confidence anymore, you're creating it. You're not standing on the sidelines hoping it will show up when you need it. You're building it day by day, choice by choice. And that's the difference between fragile confidence that shatters the first time you fail and unshakable confidence that carries you through setbacks. Now that we've explored how tiny wins reshape your self-talk, ripple into your identity, and give you resilience even on tough days, it's time to look at how to turn this practice into a lifelong habit, one that keeps fueling your confidence no matter where life takes you. So now the big question is, how do you make this more than just a nice idea you try for a week and then forget about? How do you turn the tiny triumph tracker into a lifelong habit, something that keeps fueling your confidence for years to come? The first step is designing a system that's simple enough to stick with. A habit only lasts if it's easy and rewarding. That means you don't need a fancy journal, an expensive app, or a complicated tracking method. You just need something you'll actually use. For some people, that's a notebook by the bed where they jot down 1 win before going to sleep. For others, it's a notes app on their phone or even a sticky note on the bathroom mirror. The tool doesn't matter, the consistency does. The second step is stacking the habit onto something you already do. If you try to build a new routine out of thin air, your brain will resist. But if you attach it to an existing habit, it becomes seamless. For example, after I brush my teeth at night, I'll write down my win of the day. Or, when I make my morning coffee, I'll note 1 triumph from yesterday. By linking the practice to something automatic, you remove the friction of remembering. The third step is celebrating in the moment. Don't just write the win down and move on, pause for a second, smile, and let yourself feel proud. That emotional boost is what wires the habit into your brain. It turns the practice from a chore into a reward. Over time, your brain starts craving the good feeling of acknowledging wins, and that craving keeps you coming back. Here's something powerful: you don't always have to wait until the end of the day. If you notice a tiny triumph in the middle of the afternoon, say you resisted scrolling social media during study time, or you finally sent that awkward email, capture it right then. The quicker you celebrate, the more your brain links action with reward. Now, let's talk about momentum. Confidence grows like a snowball. At first, it feels small, maybe even silly. But as you keep stacking those wins, the snowball rolls faster, picking up size and speed. Suddenly, you look back after a few months and realize you're not the same person anymore. The version of you who doubted everything has been slowly replaced by someone who trusts themselves. But here's the truth most people don't tell you: building unshakable confidence isn't about never slipping. You're going to miss days. You're going to forget to track. You're going to have stretches where life feels too overwhelming to celebrate anything. That's normal. The key is not perfection, it's return. Every time you come back to the practice, you prove to yourself that you're resilient. That's the real magic, confidence built not on flawless streaks, but on the ability to get back up. And here's where this all ties together. The Tiny Triumph Tracker isn't just about recording wins, it's about rewriting your story. Instead of being the person who says, "I never follow through," you become the person who says, "I keep finding ways to show up." Instead of thinking, "I need one big success to feel worthy," you realize, "I'm building worth every single day." That's the kind of confidence nobody can take away from you, because it's not based on external achievements, it's based on proof you've created with your own actions. Imagine yourself a year from now. You've collected hundreds of wins, big and small. You flip through your tracker, and what you see isn't just a list of actions, it's a portrait of growth. Every page is evidence that you kept moving forward, even when it was hard. Every note is a reminder that you can trust yourself. And when the next big challenge shows up, you won't hesitate, because you'll know, "I've been building this strength all along." So, here's the challenge I want to leave you with. Start today. Don't overthink it. Grab a notebook, open a new note on your phone, or even scribble on a piece of scrap paper. Write down just one win from your day. Then tomorrow, do it again. Keep stacking, keep celebrating, keep proving to yourself that you're capable. Because the truth is, confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. And every tiny triumph is another brick in the foundation of the unshakable version of you.